Dubai's the worst city ever made.
Everything about Dubai screams excess, from the heights of the tallest skyscraper in the world to the depths of the deepest underwater pool. But most of the glittering and effective lures that the UAE's tourism board has are their influencers. Tens of thousands of bikini models and Andrew Tate wannabes descend on the city every year to show off the sights and lounge around in air-conditioned villas. But underneath Dubai's surface of glitz and glamour,
I think Dubai also sponsors just people to go to their city. Like, similar to how, like it would be like the same thing as if, like, New York was paying, like, random influencers to come and, like, stay. Like, Dubai could theoretically pay me to, like, come to their city, to just come to Dubai and, like, film there. They have, like, a big focus on publicity of, like, how good their city is.
lies an underbelly of sex, exploitation, and depravity. In fact, some of the content in this video is highly disturbing, so turn back now if you don't want to know the true reality of being an influencer in Dubai. Now, Dubai is known around the world for its cleanliness, both their public places as well as their people. If you take a walk around the sun-baked streets, you'll see it's clear of litter.
That is wild. Like, there's no gum, dude, as the biggest thing. And, like, obviously, yeah, it's like tiled floors. But have you guys ever walked through a city and it's like every fourth step there's just gum that's just been kind of like emulsified into the fucking asphalt for years?
And no crime to be seen, enforced by the highly strict religious laws and the lengthy prison sentences for criminals. Every other week there's headlines about some Westerner getting arrested for having drugs in their system, or even having CBD in their car, showing affection.
Having drugs in their system, or just having drugs in general? Like, if I flew to Dubai and I ate a 1,000 milligram edible before I pulled up, and then I land in Dubai and I'm just blasted, are they going to arrest me for being high?
Public or criticizing the government. It's not an atmosphere you'd expect to match up with influencers in bikinis, but the UAE makes an exception for them. It's a small glimpse of the hypocrisy that underlines this whole city. While the 90% of the UAE's population are migrant workers, and the other native citizens lower down the ladder who have to obey these laws or else, as always, there's a whole other world for the wealthy and powerful. These are the people who, in their own narrow view of the world, have already got anything and everything they want. Whatever they desire can be met with a click of a finger. Whatever food they want, whatever mansion they want to live in, and whatever they want to do. All of their wishes.
Yeah, like, does the average Dubai worker live in Dubai? Because isn't it just really fucking expensive? Like, if you're like just a fucking Starbucks worker or some shit, the average salary in Dubai is 16,775, so 16,775 AED a month, which is $4,570, which is honestly not bad. That's more than the average U.S. income, but I would also say the average is probably inflated because Dubai probably has really rich motherfuckers.
And most deranged fantasies yet. You can get an idea of where we're going from these messages sent to influencers who appeared in Love Island, a reality TV show in the UK. Tyne Lexi, a model from the show, woke up one day to see a weird DM from a man from Dubai. He offered her £20,000 for dinner and some drinks. You can understand what the implications were there.
He was gonna pay her 20 grand to just have dinner with her? Oh, but it was presumably like an escort.
She was only 19 at the time of the message. A couple years later, after she'd been on Love Island, an agency which said they represented a client in Dubai offered her £50,000 for 5 nights in the city. Included in the offer was a non-disclosure agreement, a common practice in this new wave of propositioning in sex tourism. Tyne Lexi then stated that she refused both of the offers. Another Love Island star, Rosie Williams, was offered £100,000 per year spent being the companion of a man from Dubai. Along with the cash came the promise that he would take her shopping whenever she wanted and foot the bill for her.
Bro, he's that rich that he's just gonna pay people 100 grand to date him? Fuck, man. But then they're not even in love with you, though. Like, is that not a problem for some people?
Countless anonymous tips and stories of similar things happening to other social media models. It just doesn't get talked about. Either the women refuse and don't mention it, or they accept and they're too embarrassed or under agreement of silence. You see, most of the influencers that come to Dubai go for the same reason they do anything else: brand deals. Brand deals are the currency which fuels the whole industry. Influencers are only as valuable as the amount of people they can convince to buy your product. So when companies with massively overinflated marketing budgets are looking to appeal to a younger audience, they're an easy solution. It's this path that the makeup brand Tarte went for, shipping 50 influencers and their plus ones to an all-expense paid trip to Dubai. Footage from the event showed that each influencer was given their own luxury apartment and business class flights to and from the home country.
Dude, the craziest shit, though, was the sponsored opportunities they have on new platforms are so weirdly gauged. Like, when TikTok started out, before I was even making money on the app, the influencers that were getting sponsored deals were getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for making, like fucking nothing back for the company. right? Like now, yeah, Charlie D'Amelio's pulling in fucking $250,000 a sponsor or some shit, but that's also because she's probably the biggest platform or biggest creator on the platform. But if you were on TikTok like back when it started, like 2020, there was very few sponsors, very few far between. But when they sponsored you, it was like they paid the same as if you were like a YouTuber. And it's way easier to get followers on fucking TikTok than it is on YouTube. So the amount of pay was just so disproportional for the amount of like actual value that that creator held for the company.
And you can get a picture that there was more to this than simple marketing. It didn't help that in their promotions, lots of the influencers didn't even know the name of the brand they were shilling. Apart from being completely out of touch with real life, there was definitely something else going on. Tarte's CEO stated that they don't do traditional marketing, and instead they spend their budget on building relationships and building up communities. In this case, they were probably building up a relationship with the UAE's Tourism Council and the Limitless Funds. For the biggest influencers, they don't have to worry about anything. Their agents and their brands will sort it all out for them. But for the rest of the Instagram models who aren't at the top, it's a completely different story. For them, it will often begin with a direct message from a rich businessman who will offer them massive sums of cash for vague favors and a trip to Dubai. Other times it's been—
Bro, but like, how would you believe that? Like, if you're just like if you're like an IG model and you're like a woman with like 100K followers and some dude just hits you up on Dubai or from Dubai with like 500 followers and he's like, hey, I'll pay you like $30,000 to fucking fly out. I think he'd kill me. Like, I would just think I'm just gonna get kidnapped at the fucking airport.
Convince them to go for modeling work or some other cover. For the greedy and the desperate that take the offer, they're transported to a different world. And here is where it gets very graphic. Likely they're true. The most circulated story was told by one Twitter user in a thread of tweets, recounting a conversation they had with one of these models who had been duped and coerced into it. The woman involved described meeting a rich and handsome Emirati businessman on a private flight, who convinced her to come to Dubai with him. Once they were there, they spent time on dates, saw the sights, and did other touristy stuff. But a few days into the trip, he tells her to dress up fancy and drives her to a villa on the outskirts of town, miles from any other houses. Inside are a collection of older, wealthy men, with more women her age. Everything seemed kind of normal, if a little sketchy on the first day there. But at 2 a.m. that night, she was awoken by an attendant coming to get her for games. Once she came downstairs, she was greeted by a large room full of sex toys and buckets. The other women were there. Some of them looked nervous, whilst the men were calmly waiting. The women were made to strip. Then one of the men pulled down their pants and defecated into the bucket. For the next 2 days, they all engaged in sexual acts, often involving the use or consumption of what is in the bucket. Obviously,
Okay, so she went, right, and she hung out with like an attractive guy, and she was like, oh, this is chill. Then they go into a room with a bunch of old dudes that are rich, and one of them pooped in a bucket, and then they had to like play with it.
lots of these women wanted to leave immediately, but they had been promised $50,000 if they lasted the 2 days. On top of that, if they left, they would be without their personal belongings in the middle of nowhere in a very foreign country, so nearly all of them chose to stay. It's stories like these that give a glimpse into the true reality of being an influencer or a model in Dubai. It's in stark contrast to the clean, idyllic pictures you see on their feeds. Instagram and social media in general is a showcase of the results, not what they had to do to get there. The cars and the clothes and the holidays might look incredible, but you'll never know the lengths some people have gone to get there. Would a Chanel bag really be worth going through that? But in some cases, you can't blame the people for doing this. If they've been duped or threatened into it, or if their situation is desperate enough to where they have no choice, it's an awful decision for them to make. But for others, it's motivated by greed alone. However, the real blame here lies with the rich men instigating it, creating the networks and taking advantage of people. It's relatively unsurprising though when you consider how Dubai treats the migrant population in other cases. Either they're working them like—
Dude, and you know how fucking rich you have to be like just, oh yeah, I'm gonna spend $100,000 to have a woman sleep with me. Like, what?
slaves, withholding their meager wages for months or years at a time, or giving them under the bare minimum of living conditions. It's predictable that they'd be using these people for other things. That's the side of the scandal we don't see, and it's likely to be far worse than what does come out. Influencers and Instagram models, if they're going to talk about it, at least have a platform to get the word out. Migrant workers from developing countries don't really have that same following or opportunity to make their situation known, and Dubai's elites are nearly certain—
I think there's a difference, right? I think there's a lot of creators that are going there through like the travel department through Dubai that are just kind of showing the city. And then there's an equally similar looking situation where there's Instagram models and people and influencers going and they're posting these nice pictures, but they're not getting paid by Dubai to come. They're getting paid by like rando billionaire Dubai people to like, you know, have fun for 5 days and then be like a sex toy for like a day, and then they go home. Right. So it's like, it's hard to know the difference from just looking at social media, because what they're going to post is exactly the same.
Starting to have taken full advantage of that. If what we do hear about is so horrific, you can only dread to imagine what happens that we don't know. There are some people that might say it doesn't matter what happens between consenting adults behind closed doors. Of course, that totally forgets how hypocritical it is for Dubai's elites and how disgusting it is. And unfortunately, it isn't always just adults involved, as the next story shows. One video of a woman speaking out about a contract she had signed was incredibly revealing. In the video, she verbally consents to flying out to Dubai, getting an STD check, then to performing sexual acts with a client, a rich member of Dubai's ruling class called Sultan Ali. She mentions specific foot stuff, but the worst part was that she also mentions doing the same things with the client's underage brother, only 13 years old according to the model. In return, she'd get $25,000 before she left and a further $25,000 after the deed was done.
I'm willing to come to Dubai to Sultan Ali. In Dubai, I will have a
She had to fucking record herself do this as like a legal contract.
STD check, and Mr. Ali too. After that, we are having unprotected sex, and I will let Mr. Ali lick the humus of my feet. I will also fuck his virgin brother, who is 13 years old.
Oh my
Only
God.
few of these kinds of videos have ever been leaked, but it's likely to become common practice. There could be tens of thousands more out there, and it's doubtful that these men would even need the video or the contract for legal reasons. Dubai's legal system is so biased against migrants and foreigners compared to the ruling classes that nothing would ever happen, even if they did get caught somehow.
Well, that's just the people in power stay in power. At the end of the day, like, if they got in trouble for that, they have so much money that they would just fucking spend their way out of it. I mean, honestly, it might be worse in other countries, but it's the same thing in the U.S. If Jeff Bezos did something, Jeff Bezos could probably kill someone and get a pretty fucking meh sentence, you know? Like, he could go do some crazy shit, and he would just have a million lawyers, and they would just get him out of it.
Power play and a verification. It matches up with the former flight attendant mentioned in a story on the scandal. In her post on TikTok, she went into all the gory details about her conversations with Instagram models and influencers on their way to Dubai. One woman she spoke to in first class had taken her notice because she was eating tons of oatmeal and yogurt, while she kept talking about getting more fiber in her diet. When the flight attendant took the bait and asked why, she was happy to tell her. And now this far in, you can guess what she told the flight attendant.
Oh, what, did she have to like poop or something for him?
All the fiber was for indecent acts that she was going to perform on a rich client from Dubai. After it was done, she would be paid £20,000.
Eating all this fiber on board, you know, you're getting a good little meal in, and then you're like pooping in somebody's mouth.
Ooh, yo! Oh my God. This shit's actually insane. First, this woman's getting paid to have sex with some guy's, like, little brother. Now this woman's getting paid to poop in someone's mouth?
Who's paying you $20,000 to do it? Like,
But what's so surprising about the video though is how casual the flight attendant is telling her the story. She insinuates that it happens all the time and that she's had similar, if less extreme, experiences. The practice clearly runs deep and it's likely that it's been going on for a few years.
Wait, so the flight attendant's saying it's like, that's normal that she'll see women that'll be doing that?
Now, considering the amount of stories and how accepted it is. The line between sex workers and social media models is blurred significantly to the point that Instagram is like a public
Wow,
catalog.
yeah, because you're probably, if you're a flight attendant that regularly flies from the U.S. to Dubai, you're probably going to see a lot of alone women traveling by themselves. And you're like, why are they, you know, like, that's just, why are you alone, right? Traveling across the fucking country to Dubai. And if they're like a very attractive woman, I would probably presume that they're getting paid to like go there.
This Instagram model with 85,000 followers, who also had a reputation as a working girl, was a rare example of Dubai's authorities
Shitting in his mouth. How does that become an arousal thing? Like, how does that develop? Because that's like that's like unhealthy, you know? It's not even like a kink that's like, okay. It's like, you could get like sick. Like, can't you get really sick from that?
Cracking down on the trade. She fled Dubai in 2021 after Dubai's police officers raided her apartment. They had found her profiles in Seeking Arrangement, an infamous website designed to connect young women and rich older men. At the apartment, they found over $54,000 worth of local currency in cash, probably earnings from her work there. The influencer and her boyfriend eventually ended up back in London. Although the UK and Dubai have a mutual extradition treaty, meaning they could be arrested at any time, but Dubai still hasn't made the call. However, stories like these are just so far and few between. Dubai's police probably decided to stop turning a blind eye, not because of some change in overall policy, but because the parties and the sex had continued well into the COVID pandemic. Even as the world was either shuttered in their homes or working to keep society running, the grind never ended for influencers. There's tons of examples of influencers going to Dubai over lockdown, claiming it was essential for their mental health or any other ridiculous excuse. It's a move that parallels other examples of influencers' self-centeredness and their complete lack of regard for morality. Those Instagram models that willingly promote Dubai and go there to enrich themselves are all working to propagate a fantasy. It should be obvious by now that Dubai isn't the paradise you see on social media. It's a cold, materialistic, vapid, plastic, and fake city that treats people as yet another resource to use and discard to serve their ruling elites. So when you next see somebody basking in the sun on the balcony of the Dubai villa, don't forget what they might—
And then do you get a what do you get, a tax form from the fucking Dubai guy? How's that working, right? You get 100 grand wired to your bank. Tax season comes around. How are you detailing what you got paid for? I shat in a guy's mouth for fucking 20 grand. That's where that came from. It's untaxed? I don't think it's untaxed.
have done behind closed doors to get there. If you enjoyed this video and you want to—
That was a good fucking video, dude. Oh my god. It's actually physically painful to listen to these celebrities lecture you about human rights whilst promoting places with appalling human rights. 3 guarantees in life, death, taxes, moon, making a video about how shit Dubai is. This is a re-upload. I never even saw the original. Always imagined this place to be a trafficking hub for the rich. Well, I think that's any really rich country. Is anywhere with really rich people, they can just get away with anything. It doesn't even matter the fact that it's Dubai. It's just if you are worth billions of dollars, a lot of laws won't apply to you. Like, yeah, if Jeff Bezos fucking walked around and just shot fucking 45 innocent people, that he's probably not going to get out of that. But most things that he could get in trouble for, he would get out of.